Hi everybody, I'm Pia from Stitches and Scraps.
Today I'm going to show you how to make this owl fridge magnet. Lion Brand was kind enough to give me the DIY yarn for all of these magnets. For the owl magnet, I'm going to be using mostly brown with a little bit of red and white, and then just a tiny bit of orange and black for the facial embroidery. Since we're using so little, you can substitute embroidery floss for the orange and black. You'll also need a magnet that can fit inside your owl. This one's about a 1-inch diameter, and you can go a little bit larger, but you do want to make sure that it's fairly thin so that it doesn't puff up your work too much. And then finally, you'll need a glue gun and some hot glue. I'm using this mini hot glue gun that Xyron gave me to try out and review. Let's start with the back circle. Chain 2 or make a magic circle, whichever one you prefer, and then work 6 single crochet into that second chain or into the magic circle, whichever one you made. Join with a slip stitch, and if you made a magic circle, go ahead and pull that tail to tighten it. For round 2, we're going to do an increase in every stitch, which means for every 1 stitch, we're going to work 2 single crochets. Rather than put them both in exactly the same place, we're going to do a slightly less visible increase. So chain 1 to get started, and the first stitch we're going to put in the back loop only of the first stitch. So work a single crochet into the back loop only of that first stitch. Now in that same stitch, we're going to put another single crochet in, this time going through both loops, just like a normal stitch. So now we still have our increase, but they're not in exactly the same spot, so it'll be a little bit less visible. We're going to keep doing that all the way around. So back loop only, and then both loops. Back loop only, both loops. So now I have 12 stitches, and you see this little V here? This was the slip stitch that we made when we joined. So don't work into that. Make sure you're keeping track of your stitches. We had 6, we've increased in every one, so now we have 12. And then go ahead and slip stitch to join this round. For round 3, we're going to alternate between increasing and not increasing to take it from 12 stitches to 18 stitches. So chain 1, we're going to increase in the first stitch, so single crochet in the back loop only, and then single crochet in both loops. And then we're not going to increase in the second stitch, so single crochet in the second stitch like normal. Back loop, both loops, no increase. Back loop, both loops, normal single crochet, and keep doing that all the way around. Now we have 18 stitches. We're going to join with a slip stitch, and we're ready for round 4. For round 4, we're going to do very much the same thing. We're going to alternate between increasing in 1 stitch and then not increasing in 2 stitches. So it'll be increase, regular, regular, increase, regular, regular, so on and so forth. So chain 1, increase in the first stitch, so back loop, both loops, okay? And then single crochet like normal in the next 2 stitches. And then do that again, back loop, both loops, single crochet like normal in 2 stitches. Okay, one more time, back loop, both loops, single crochet, single crochet. We're going to keep doing that all the way around, and that should bring us to 24 stitches total. That's 24 stitches. I'm joining with a slip stitch, and I'm not going to fasten off yet because now we're going to work the ears. Now for the ears, we want a nice smooth transition going into it, so I'm not going to chain 1 to bring it up to height. Instead, I'm going to skip the first stitch because I've already slip stitched into that first stitch to join the round, right? So I'm going to skip the first stitch, then I'm going to single crochet in the second stitch without doing any chains to start it off. So single crochet in the second stitch. Now in the third stitch, this is where I'm going to put the actual ear. I'm going to single crochet I'm going to chain 1, then I'm going to double crochet, chain 1, and single crochet again. And that should give me a nice pointy triangle. Then in the next stitch I single crochet, then a slip stitch, okay, single crochet in the next stitch, and then make the other ear in this stitch here. So single crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, single crochet, and that's in the second ear, and then I single crochet in the next stitch and slip stitch in the last stitch. And when I fasten off this back piece, I'm going to leave a nice long tail, maybe even 18 to 24 inches, very long, to go enough to go around the whole outside of this a couple of times so that I can sew the two pieces together. So I'm leaving a very long tail and cutting it there. And I'll go ahead and fasten off. And there's the back piece of the owl. Now I'm going to weave in just this short tail, and then we're going to attach the magnet. I've turned my back piece to the wrong side of the fabric. See, this was the right side, and now this is the wrong side, and I wove in my starting tail there. This is the long tail that I left for sewing later. So now I get my magnet and my glue gun, and I put a little dollop of glue all the way around the magnet here, and before it dries, I stick it right into the center of my owl and let it dry. Now I can set this back piece aside and we can work on the front. Let's start on the front circle. The front is exactly the same as the back, except that we're starting with red in the center to make a little center circle of red. So go ahead and start just like you did for the back, chain 2 or make a magic circle, and then in that second chain or in your magic circle, go ahead and do 6 single crochet. Join with a slip stitch and pull the tail tight to close your circle. For the second row, we're going to increase in every stitch, so chain 1, back loop only, both loops, back loop only, both loops, etc. all the way around. Now you have 12 stitches and it's time to join the round. You can join, fasten off, and then add brown to do another round, or you can just switch to brown right here when you make the join. So insert your hook like you normally would to join for your slip stitch, but instead of doing it with the red, do it with the brown. So pull the brown through both of them, and now you have joined your circle and changed to brown at the same time. So now we can start on round 3 with the brown. And it's the same round as it was before. So chain 1, we're going to increase in the first stitch. Okay, and then a normal stitch in the next stitch. Increase, and then don't increase. Increase, and then don't increase. And keep doing that all the way around. Now we have 18 stitches and we can go ahead and join this round. And last round, for round 4, we're going to chain 1, we're going to increase in the first stitch, and then not increase in 2 stitches. Okay, so back loop, both loops, and then regular single crochet, regular single crochet. And we keep doing that all the way around. Now you have 24 stitches. It looks the same as the back, except that it has a red circle in the center. So now you can join with a slip stitch, and then we're going to do the ears just like we did on the back. So I'm going to go through it quickly. Skip the first stitch, do not chain anything, single crochet in the second stitch. In the third stitch, go single crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, single crochet. Okay, and then we single crochet, slip stitch, single crochet, and do the next ear, which is single crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, single crochet, and then single crochet in the next stitch, and then slip stitch to finish it off. And this time we don't need a big long tail, so we can just cut everything. I never actually cut my red when we changed colors, but we can cut everything and weave in all of our ends. Let's make a couple of quick eyes, and this is going to be just like the first round of the back and the front. We're going to chain 2 or make a magic circle. We're going to work 6 single crochet into that second chain or into the magic circle. And then we're going to join. Okay, and pull tight on the tail if you made a magic circle to close your circle. Now the first eye that we make, we're going to leave a nice big tail so that we can use this tail to sew both eyes on. So there's my first eye, and then on the second eye we won't need to leave that big tail because we're going to use this one to sew on both eyes. So again, do the second eye the same way. So I could weave these ends into the eyes themselves before I sew them on, but I don't like to do that because the eyes are so very small that there's not a lot of room to weave into them. So instead, I'm going to sew the eyes onto the front piece, and then I can weave in the ends on the back of the front piece where I have a lot more room to work. In that situation, I just have to be careful that I'm not letting the white show through to the front. So I have to be careful how I weave them in the back. So let's go ahead and attach the eyes. First, I'm going to position the eyes and make sure that I like the placement. Okay, I like that placement. That looks good to me. So now I'm going to take the eye that has the long tail, and I'm going to start with that one. I'm going to pick it up carefully so I don't lose my placement, and I'm going to pull this short tail through so that I can weave it in on the back later. So I'm just pulling it down and through to the back side. Okay, now I thread my needle with the long tail, and I'm going to sew all around the eye to sew it into place. For these eyes, I like the way the edge of the stitch looks, so I want to keep that. So I'm going to sew a back stitch just under the edge of the stitch. So first I'm going to bring this down right in here, and you'll see in the pattern a tutorial for a more invisible join. That is a great way to get a nice seamless finish here and not have that little jog if you want to do that. Totally optional, but I recommend taking a look at that tutorial if you're interested. Okay, so now I'm going to do a back stitch. So I'm going to bring it up 2 stitches ahead of where I am. Oh, get that other one out of the way. There we go. And then go backwards and go down 1 stitch. Okay, ahead 2. And watch that I'm not catching that tail too much, and then down 1. Okay, I've gotten back in position. I'm not real thrilled with how that stitch looks, so I'm going to cover it up. I'm going to bring my yarn up through the middle of the stitch before it and then make a fake stitch. I'm going to go under both these loops, okay, and then come back down into this stitch and back down again all the way to the wrong side of the work. This is kind of like that invisible join I was showing you, but there, I like that finish. So that is the first eye. Now I'm going to use the same yarn to sew on the second eye. So first I flip over to the back, and I'm going to weave this tail through to bring it to the position that I need it for the second eye, which is right here, so that I don't have a great big thread hanging across there. And then I put the second eye in place. Pull those 2 tails down. There we go. And sew the second eye on. I'm happy with the placement of my eyes. Don't worry about the little opening right here because we're going to cover that with a black stitch anyway. So now I can go ahead and weave in my ends on the back. Now let's do the nose. I've attached a piece of orange yarn to the back by weaving in the tail, and I'm going to bring it up directly between the 2 eyes, like right there between the 2 eyes. Okay? Make sure not to catch any of the white yarn from the eyes when you do it. And I'm going to make the center stitch of the nose right down to here, the beak. I shouldn't say nose, I should say beak. Now I want a triangle beak, so I'm going to come up a little bit lower than that first tip that I made, okay? But almost in the same spot, just a little bit lower, and go down in the same spot. And then I'm going to come up on the other side just a little bit lower than that tip that I made, and I'm going to come down in the same spot. and I can do one more stitch across the top just to give it some more fullness, all the way from the top down to the same spot at the bottom. And I like that beak. I could actually do one more stitch on each side. I like a big full beak. But just keep going till it looks good to you. Make sure that you keep it somewhat symmetrical. There we go. I like that beak. So that is my beak, and I'm going to weave in this end and switch to black for the eyes. I've attached the black yarn in the same way. Come up in the middle of the eye. Now I could come up right in the middle and make a French knot, but I don't love French knots, so I'm going to come up a little bit above the middle, and I'm going to just work a little vertical stitch a couple of times across the middle, and that'll give me a similar effect, if not quite the same. That's a little too low. Well, that looks good. This is where your magnet gets some personality, so play around with it till you get it how you like it. I'm doing 3 stitches in exactly the same spot, and I might do a 4th, but let's see how it looks with 3. I'll do a 4th. Okay, so there is one eye, and then I come and do the exact same thing on this one and try to make it match as closely as you can. So there we go. Now my owl has its eyes. Now it's time to join our front and back. So put the back with the wrong side up. Okay, so the magnet is up. Take the owl with the face up, the front with the face up, and put it down on top of the back. So now you have the magnet sandwiched in between, you have the wrong sides together, and the right sides are showing on the front and on the back. Now we're going to take this long tail and we're going to sew it together. And again, you can use any stitch you prefer. I like to use a back stitch. So that these, I like to use a back stitch right before the edge of the stitch here so that these stitch edges stay showing. So make sure your ears are lined up. All of the stitches, like there's that slip stitch and slip stitch, all the stitches should be perfectly lined up in pairs, and we're just going to back stitch around through those pairs. So I bring my tail up, there we go, into the stitch that coincides with the stitch where it is. All right, and now working in pairs, I'm going to go down a stitch or back a stitch and then up 2 stitches. So it's always up 2 and then back 1. And I'm making sure that I'm working through the stitches in pairs, going through both layers. My magnet is all sewn together, and now I can weave in this end. To make the ear tufts, I'm going to take about a 4 to 6 inch piece of red yarn, and fold it together to make a loop just like that. Now I'm going to pull this loop through the top of the ear. Now I've got the loop on my hook and the tails off to the side, so I'm going to take the tails and pull them through the loop on my hook, just like that, like I'm making a chain. But then I'm going to pull it all the way through. Tighten this up, okay, to make a little knot, and then trim your ends pretty close, not so close they fall out, but just the bare minimum that you need for them not to fall out, okay? And then to make sure that they really don't fall out and to fluff them up, we're going to take our needle and separate those strands, just like that, so that they all mix together and it'll be much less likely for it to pull out. There's one tuft. We're going to do the same thing on the other ear. And that's our owl fridge magnet. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, share it with your friends, or leave me a comment. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel for more great videos. Thanks for watching.